Center, and on behalf of the partnership and LCRC, we are excited to welcome you to today's presentation, Learning with the Learning Community. Just a little bit of housekeeping for our presentation today. It is going to be a full presentation, and we are definitely looking forward to your engagement with any questions that you have. And we ask that if you have any questions related to anything presented today, that you would utilize the question and answer box to ask specific questions. Otherwise, if you are experiencing technical difficulties, we ask that you use the chat window to ask any technical questions, and our team will be happy to assist you. Today on the partnership side, I'm joined by my colleague Hyacinth McKinley. Zandy is actually a little bit sick today, so she is off-site but helping us with today's webinar, and I'm also joined by my colleagues Liza Porras, who is our Rural Impact Vista leader, and Lisa on our program associate. And so without further ado, we are going to go ahead and jump into today's presentation. I will have an opportunity to introduce our presenters more specifically for today's presentation at a later time, but we will begin by taking a moment to engage in the Community Action Promise. Next slide. And really we engage in expressing the promise because it truly does ground the work that we do, and that promise is community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. And so as we look at the next slide, I'd like to give us an overview of the White House Rural Council Rural Impact Project. It was a project that really was born in about 2015 and really conceived from key federal stakeholders in conjunction with the White House Rural Council who were very in tune with the realities of families facing poverty, and particularly families in the rural context facing poverty, that reality being that 1 in 4 children in rural context experience poverty, and in order to effectively move those families out of poverty, we would basically need to engage in a comprehensive or holistic approach, and thus Rural Impact was born. And in that process, there were several agencies, next slide, who joined in as key stakeholders just up front regarding that process. Those stakeholders, as I said, being the White House Rural Council, but also the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, the Corporation for National and Community Services, the Appalachian Regional Commission, the Delta Regional Authority, and others. And so out of those various departments, then there were divisions within those departments that really brought in as key stakeholders, providing their insight, wisdom, technical support, and resources so that the project could have evolved into the project as we know it today. And once the project was fully established, the American Academy of Pediatrics as well as the Community Action Partnership were brought in as technical assistance providers. We thought that the work could best be achieved by engaging in a demonstration project, and thus there were 10 sites located all over the country who were chosen, who would basically drill down and look at a specific problem or need facing their community and how to address that need utilizing the 2-generation approach. And so as we look at the next slide, So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I apologize for that. There was a bit of a technical glitch there, but we will continue and to tell you a little bit about just our framework itself. It really intends communities approach related to programs, policies, and systems, and to also offer a comprehensive whole family network for addressing rural child poverty. And so the 10 sites who have participated in this demonstration project or this pilot have had an opportunity to access technical assistance, connection or support from federal staff, many of the representing agencies that I just mentioned before. All of the sites also have utilized AmeriCorps VISTA volunteers from the Corporation for National and Community Service. We engage in monthly or really ongoing peer learning, and every site has access to coaches who are available to meet with them at least on a monthly basis to talk about their action plans. They developed action plans at the very beginning of the project to really detail what their outcomes and strategies might be in order to move their programmatic efforts forward. And so this project really intended or intends to be a technical assistance project, so there has been no direct federal funding available to the sites, and so it wasn't a project that they applied for where they just got like a big grant, but really they got a lot of technical assistance. And through the course of the project, because we are now in year 2 of the project, agencies have been given access to small bits of resources from the Annie E. Casey Foundation and from the Kellogg Foundation. And so if we look at the next slide, we can see just the project sites at a glance on the U.S. landscape. And looking at the next slide, then we can see all of the projects or locations listed. So from Maryland, we have Garrett County, Community Action Committee, Allegheny County, Human Resources Development Commission, Kentucky, Partners for Education at Berea College, Iowa, Mississippi, Ohio, Minnesota, Maine, Arkansas, Utah, Oklahoma. Those are all of our sites, and we can see the respective sites associated with those. Today's presentation will feature peer presentations from colleagues at Allegheny County Human Resources Development, or we call them HRDC, in Maryland, and we will hear from colleagues in Maine at Family Futures Down East. And so it has been a very rigorous demonstration project so far, and look forward to providing you all with a little more insight into just what that impact or rural impact has been. And so as we look at the next slide, it just gives you a pictorial representation of our approach, and really it is our intent to make a better tomorrow for our children and families that are being served on the local level, acknowledging that, as I've already said, there's 1 in 4 children in rural communities in the U.S. who have been impacted by poverty, and our goal has been to move our families from poverty to a thriving future, or to prosperity. And a key part of that has also been our collective impact strategy. And so for each of our sites that are located in the communities that have been chosen, we have helped or tried to help build their capacities to serve in the backbone capacity for their other partners in their respective communities, and so that all of the possible resources that could be brought together just from a capacity point of view, resource point of view, could be utilized for a common goal, which that common goal being to reduce rural child poverty. But partnership has been essential in that process. for agencies as they sought to engage in that two-generation approach. And I will pause and say a little bit more about what two-generation is, and that is that the needs are being met from the perspective of both the parent and the child at the same time. Historically, many of our service delivery models or approaches have sought to connect in with the parents and specifically just address the parent's needs, or to connect in with the child and just specifically address the child's needs. But really 2G aims to connect both the parents and the child's needs together at the same time. And I won't steal the thunder of the presenters today, because they will talk about that in a more comprehensive or tangible sense, but just to give you that background as we go forward. And so next, we are going to give everybody here on today's webinar an opportunity to learn a little bit more about rural impact. We through funding from the Annie E. Casey Foundation and the Kellogg Foundation and other funders, were able to put together a video which we are going to share with you at this time that provides a little more context regarding our efforts. And so at this time, we're going to ask that the link be placed in the chat window. So we go to the next slide. Not sure if we have that. Is that ready to go? We're going to place the link for the video in the chat window, and once we place that link in the chat window, then you will be able to click on that link, and let's see, I'm getting some instructions here. Right, and so we're going to give you access to the URL. So I'm going to provide my production team with a little guidance. So just stand by for just a moment. We're going to video, if you just mute yourself so that we can continue with the presentation. I apologize for that pause. you are done watching the video, please be advised that you will need to either mute the video or pause it to prevent the audio from playing throughout the remainder of the presentation. Once you pause or mute, you can then proceed to close out of the multimedia tab. And so with that said, and we're going to have to do that as well. We're going to just take one more moment here. All right, so remember to mute yourself or disable the video as you finish watching, and hopefully that has given you more perspective about the Rural Impact Project and our approach. And so without further ado, we are excited to introduce today's wonderful presenters, they being Charlie Martin-Berry. Charlie is the director of the Community Caring Collaborative located in Maine, and Courtney Thomas, who serves as the executive director for Alleviating HRDC, and Cherie Glencoe, who is an early Headstart parent. And so these wonderful colleagues are going to share from their own perspectives about their agencies and their projects in particular around 2G, and we will then entertain some additional questions and answers from you all. And so to get our panel started on this afternoon, I would like to begin by asking Charlie to begin by offering an overview of the project in Maine, Family Futures Down East, and then Charlie, you will be followed by Courtney, and Courtney will also offer an overview. So I'm going to hand it off to you at this time, Charlie. Are you ready?
I am ready, Tiffany. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad I figured out how to turn off YouTube. And thank you for inviting me to this panel presentation today. I'm excited to talk a little bit about Family Futures Down East and our participation in rural impact and really what a difference it's made. To offer you a bit of overview about the program, I'll just sort of position you all the way up the coast in Maine. We're almost to the Canadian border, and I'm looking at about a foot of snow that we still have on the ground. Very rural place, 32,000 people in our county, and about 10% of those folks here in Washington County are Passamaquoddy tribal members. And in our place, it's more like 1 in 3 children are probably living with the significant impacts of poverty and multi-generational poverty. So Family Futures Down East really came about listening to those families. It was very much a response to parents who are working with direct service providers who are convened through our organization, the Collaborative, and who were sharing with us the challenges that those families face. And then we listened a little more closely to the parents themselves, describing not only their challenges, but also their aspirations. And what they told us is what they wanted more information about being parents, good parents, and they wanted better access to jobs that would help them pay their bills. And they told us what they hoped for, and we imagined that together with them, and then they told us what might also be in their way if we could in fact build the opportunity that they asked for. So some of the dimensions of that opportunity really was a request to say, how do we get to college? How do we get to school? Because parents knew that getting higher educational attainment in this area meant they would perhaps find themselves in a career pathway that could lead to a family supporting job. They also knew that they needed to have childcare, high quality childcare, if they were going to engage in that opportunity. Someone needed to be really taking great care of their children while they were in school. As they talked about those career ladders and career pathways, they knew they needed more skills just to be ready for the workforce. Alongside college, they wanted to be working at the same time, many parents. They were asking for opportunities to connect to resources when there are often many barriers. As Tiffany mentioned earlier, there are opportunities for parents that may not take into consideration the need for their children and vice versa. So asking for that whole family approach, how can we combine opportunities and resources so that we're really thinking of parents and children together. Parents definitely told us they needed someone to help them navigate that whole system from college to social services to health services, and what we've envisioned is a coaching model, and are implementing a coaching model in order to do that. And that really came from parents saying there isn't anyone in our lives necessarily to help us with that, or who believe in us, in our ability to go to college and to find success there. And lastly, parents told us, like, yep, you can build this. You can build this amazing, aligned, two-generational program, but we might not be able to get there without some real support around transportation or food security, or just accessing entitlement programming, or taking care of sometimes emergency needs. If parents knew that if they were worrying about eviction, they were not going to be able to focus on school. So if I could have the next slide. Is there a way to get to the next slide? Tiffany, is the next slide? There we go. So the response, this next slide really gives you the programmatic response. It has a lot of logos because there are a lot of partners who have programmatic contributions to this two-generation response. It is a very highly collaborative alignment of programming across this county in Maine that builds those services and supports that parents ask for. And two major players in that are the two colleges here in Washington County, the University of Maine-Machias and Washington County Community College. So one is the smallest campus of the University of Maine system here, and one is our community college system partner. They offer 5 classes 2 nights a week in the evening for parents in approved associates programming that is eligible for financial aid. They are done in a cohort model, and those classes are contextualized to really be designed around family life skills, but also offer parents the opportunity to earn core curriculum credit. At the same time, in the evening, their children are participating in high-quality early learning in the co-located Headstart centers on each campus, where they're also able to get a meal before class and spend a little time with their kiddos before class. Partners in adult education and in our local career center, Department of Labor partner, are helping with families getting ready for college, and they're helping support remediation and tutoring. Coaches, again, are really providing key individualized wraparound support to help make sure those barriers are being addressed, that parents are setting and achieving individual goals across academic, personal, family, and career sort of categories. And lastly, I'll share and try to wrap up that what's unique, I think, about this particular two-gen approach is that it came out of a collaborative. It continues to be highly collaborative. Every single one of those logos there, those partners, really represents an equal partner in a shared goal around two-gen programming to help families succeed economically, and that work of really being true to communication and collaboration and shared goals is the heart of this thing, listening to parents and helping them reach their goals. So that's an overview of Family Futures Down East.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Courtney. Offer us an overview of Allegheny. What say you?
Okay. So the Allegheny County Human Resources Development Commission partners with Garrett County Community Action on our two-generation work. It was a strategic decision we made about 2 years ago. It certainly made sense. We're located in Central Appalachia, and our communities are similar in terms of the mountainous and rural geographic nature of the communities and the regional economies, we share a lot of the same resources. And as community action agencies who have a history in operating strong early learning programs through Headstart and early Headstart, our systems or structures were set up very similarly. So to give you a little bit of information about our communities, we're economically struggling. Our poverty rates for families exceed 20%. Nationwide, I think the average is around 11%. And we have low educational attainment. 40% of our residents possess only a high school diploma compared to 28% nationwide. And our unemployment rates consistently exceed those of the rest of the state and the national level. We used to have a manufacturing-based economy, and in the late 70s and early 80s, as we saw manufacturing jobs move overseas, we really didn't have anything to replace those industries that offered good-paying wages. And so we have a number of people in both communities who have basically been in intergenerational poverty for the last 3 to 4 decades. And lower wage jobs are very common, where many of our families are working 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet, which creates strains on the community as well as the family orders. Our two-generation approach works across 3 channels: the macroeconomic, because good-paying jobs need to be available in the community; community capacity building, because partners are critical to the work that we do; and then the families and individuals we are working with, because people want to succeed but often need just a little helping hand to get there. We take a integrated, coordinated approach to addressing poverty through our Head Start programs. Could you change the slide, please? Can I change the slide? Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry, if you could go back. So between the 2 counties, we have a 2-generation target audience of around 615 families. All of those families are enrolled in our Head Start and Early Head Start program. And as part of the coordinated, integrated approach, we provide education through early childhood experiences, as well as career pathways and training for parents. We look at the economic supports of housing and transportation, financial literacy, and asset building, some of the things that Charlie also mentioned, because they're important to the ongoing stability of the family, as well as key to helping our families become more financially secure. We also look at health and well-being, so everything from mental health supports for the families, as well as trauma-informed care approaches, because parents who experience adversity or are living with chronically high levels of stress can unintentionally become less responsive parents. And this also has an impact on child development. So we think those things are very important. And then we focus on social capital, because building peer support and opportunities for our families to become involved is important to creating that community connection and cohesiveness. And that's really a broad overview of our program. We talked about, I think in the video, about a universal no wrong door approach. So both agencies, no matter which location you go in, can have the family's needs met by completing a universal intake application and family needs assessment that identify some of the structures and supports the family needs in place, so that we can either connect them directly to services through our organizations, which are multi-service organizations, or through what we call a warm referral and handoff to one of our partner agencies.
Thank you very much, Courtney. So can you also then talk about what being a part of the Rural Impact Project has allowed your agency to accomplish that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to achieve? Can you give some insights on that, please?
So for HRDC, the technical assistance and learning from the other agencies has been invaluable. In the last year, we were able to facilitate the implementation of a new agency-wide client tracking system that tracks family outcomes, and then also allows us and our caseworkers to really see what's going on with the families holistically. And that's something that took a lot of effort that we probably would not have accomplished without the support of Rural Impact, and in particular our VISTA volunteer, Kim, who has been instrumental in really keeping us on track. It's also enhanced relationships with some of our partners. One of the things that we had wanted to do was to locate a Head Start center on the local community college campus, because we thought it made a nice transition for our families who have identified a career or education goal to have children right there in easy access, and also then expose the children to a college campus at a much younger age. One of the things we learned early on through some surveys is that even though our community has a 4-year institution and a 2-year community college, that I have always viewed as an integral part of the community dynamic, we have a lot of individuals who never step foot on those college campuses. So it's a very intimidating factor, and the earlier we can expose young people to those environments, I think the better off we are. But we actually were able to open a Head Start Center on the campus of Allegheny College of Maryland back in September of this year. It's a full-day program for our Head Start families, and priority enrollment is given to parents who are either working or going to school full-time. And we are currently looking at expanding that center to include early Head Start for the fall of 2017. And then the other piece is it's really given us, I don't want to say it's legitimized our efforts, but it certainly has provided a strong foundation for us to be going out and speaking to legislators and other key stakeholders in the state of Maryland. We've met with a variety of department secretaries, as well as made presentations to the House Ways and Means Committee, as well as the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. And then about 2 weeks ago, we were invited to participate in a press conference by the governor, who announced part of Think Maryland, which is the data integration and interoperability system overhaul for the state data system, the creation or establishment of two-generation intergenerational poverty commission that's going to be looking what works in terms of helping people move towards economic self-sufficiency over the next 2 years, and we hope that we will be an active part of that commission.
Look forward to hearing more about how Maryland's two-generation commission evolved over time, and it's very exciting that your agency, along with Garrett and some of the other Maryland agencies, have been involved in supporting that initiative. And also what I heard you say was that you have found some opportunities as your early Head Start engagements or resources have been increased. And what was fascinating that you said was that you have parents who have been involved with your program who for the first time have had an opportunity to step foot on community college campuses, which has probably opened a whole new world for those parents and their perspective about what their own future possibilities might be. So thank you so much for how you have highlighted that. And of course I'm going to pitch that same question to your colleague Charlie, and say to you, Charlie, talk about the value of being a part of Rural Impact. Say more from your own perspective in Maine.
Sure, I'm happy to. I think that we wouldn't be off the ground without it. Like, we would not be in implementation today. We wouldn't have 20 families participating in this two-gen program here on the campuses in our county, or it would be only one campus or something like that. So, I mean, with the designation, we were able to attract and receive some initial foundation money from an in-state foundation and a national foundation that really gave us the resources we needed to hire staff to begin evaluation now, early on, and build that design right out of the gate. And it also helped us fund some of the early program activities. And then, so with that sort of momentum, some resources to move into implementation pretty quickly, I think that Rural Impact also just helped shine a light on programming and activities here in Washington County that brought some attention to this effort through state partnerships. State partners, particularly in the Department of Health and Human Services, who knew about the program and certainly know about the Community Caring Collaborative and many of our partners, just started saying, hey, can we come learn more? Or invitations that came our way to present in DC at national conferences through our participation in Rural Impact brought us together with state partners in Washington to have that conversation more about what was happening in our county. And that's helped tremendously in terms of building the pathway to sustainability that will bring those braided public resources into the support and sustainability of this program. And that has moved along at a pace and at a level that is thrilling to me and to our partners locally, and that I think has absolutely stemmed from Rural Impact.
Thank you very much, Charlie. So what I heard you say was, in essence, you wouldn't even have the opportunity to serve these 20 families in the way that you are being able to at this time if it weren't for the project. So thank you for sharing that. And even though your effort is a new effort, it really has given your organization and collaborative an opportunity to really kind of take in all of the technical assistance and the resources to kind of really think through in a very comprehensive manner how to get started and how to do the work effectively. And so there again, we're very excited to see how your progress plays out over time. And so can you talk then a little bit about any successes or unexpected impacts within your program? Charlie, you want to take a stab at that first?
Sure. I will say at in terms of that pathway to sustainability, that, I mean, we're not fully there yet, but we're really gaining, and that just feels like a wonderful experience and wonderful bit of news to be able to report. But, you know, really at the program level, it's been pretty fascinating to watch these families in the first semester in particular of college. Some of those parents had never ever left their children in childcare before, in any care before, and it was a huge leap of faith to leave their child in a really phenomenal Headstart facility and early childcare setting, and then go over to their classes. But they so loved that experience. Like some of those parents who had never left their children in care, over the first few weeks said, wow, my child's really loving this, and it's working, and I like these people, and I'm gaining trust. And so there were several who actually were able to get their children into daytime slots in the Head Start program, signed them up, and went and found some additional part-time employment. So we were really very excited about that and supportive. Similarly, the program offers 2 classes per semester in the evening, and we have transition supports to help families move into second year of college to continue in their post-secondary pathway. But some are already very eager to get more credits and get ready outside of some of the supports that this 2Gen program offers. So I signed up for additional classes in the spring term, which just shows this, we were excited about that. Additional motivation, increased confidence, didn't see it coming, and supported them every step of the way.
Thank you very much. Courtney, would you like to give some insight on any early successes or impacts that you have experienced at Alleviating?
Well, a lot of our early successes have stemmed around creating the structure internally to build our capacity to do a better job providing the two-generation approach to services. But we're also seeing impact with our families in terms of being able to connect them to both employment and education opportunities, which is very important. This year we'll be offering a early Headstart and Headstart summer program for the first time in years to be able to support some of our families who are engaged in the workforce at this point but need that continued care for their children year-round. So we'll have 2 summer-based classes for 40 children that we have not offered in a very long time, which again goes to show the ability to really utilize the technical assistance that we've been offered, engage our parents and really determine what their needs are, and then expand our capacity internally. One of the things that I think has been tremendous about this is the opportunity to really learn from our families about what the challenges are in terms of going to or becoming more economically self-sufficient. Dwayne Yoder and myself, Dwayne's with Garrett County, had the opportunity to speak with staff in Senator Heinrich and Collins' office in D.C. about 3 weeks ago about some of the barriers families face around things that are really created by federal policy. And we can't have those discussions and talk about those types of things without being really engaged with our families, because they see the challenges in a much different way than we do. So I also see that as an early success, that we have been able to engage our families and have them connect with us so they can be sharing with us what really makes a true impact in their families' lives.
Thank you very much. And I want to go ahead and give Cherie Glencoe the heads up, because Cherie is one of the early Headstart parents at your agency. And Cherie, can you talk a bit about how your involvement in Alleviating 2G program has impacted you? So what has success looked like for you in your own experience? But first, if you could just talk about just what your experience with the program has been, but then talk to us about how that interaction with the program has impacted your family. Can you do that for us? You ready to go?
Yes. Yep. Well, first of all, I'll just give you an overview of my family. It's me and my husband, and we have a 2-year-old son. And my son was born actually 6.5 weeks prematurely. He was in the NICU for about 10 days, and you can imagine that medical bill. Found out my son was uninsured, so that, you know, that it's over $10,000 medical bill. So I have the financial strain on my family already just with one child. Also, my son, I guess over a year ago, about 1.5 years, ended up with infant botulism. Once again, was hospitalized for 2 weeks. Once again, I have more medical bills. So my family has suffered a lot of financial stress that I've always been stressing about, worrying about how am I going to pay this off, things like that. My son got enrolled into Early Headstart Full Day Center. He was about 10 months old when he got in. Because of being premature and with the infant botulism, he was delayed developmentally. The center did a Brigant screening on him, saw that he was delayed, ended up referring him to infants and toddlers, in which he qualified for early intervention. So through that, he got PT and OT just about every week. And it was really nice for me to be involved in that situation where I could come during his PT and OT to the center and learn what the PT and OT were doing with my son so I can continue to do that at him as well to help him to improve. And the teachers would also learn from PT and OT what they can do during the day with him to improve his development. So it was really nice to know I was a part of a team, and I really like that, knowing it's not just me, I'm not alone, that I have the staff with Early Head Start and with infants and toddlers to help me achieve the goal of my son eventually graduating within 6 months and getting right on track where he needs to be. So that's been a huge blessing to me, specifically with my son. And with the financial struggles, I've always stressed about that. And just recently, my husband and I took a three-day course with HRDC with the financial education class with Jenny Cannon. And we learned about budgeting, we learned about retirement savings, we learned just about anything you can think of, how to save money, set goals for yourselves. We communicated, like my husband and I communicated with each other to know, what goals do we have together that we want to achieve. So we set those goals. We're now on 2 months of setting a budget and following through with that and actually starting to build our savings and pay off some debts that we have, credit card debts, medical bills. So that's been a huge blessing too, that HRDC offers financial education to help us achieve a goal that we had set. And even the Early Head Start classroom, they have literacy bag program where I read to my son and earn VIP points. I can use those VIP points to go to their shop and get diapers, wipes, laundry detergent, paper products, you name it, they have it there. And that's been helpful to know I can rely on that to help me with groceries, to save money that way. And it's just because I'm participating, I'm reading to my child, I'm going to parent meetings and field trips. So it's been very helpful. We have a long way to go, but HRDC has really helped us achieve some of our goals that we have set for ourselves.
Cherie, everything that you just said just gives me goosebumps. What a very, very powerful story or insight into your life, and hopefully for colleagues who are listening around the country to Cherie, hopefully you all have heard from her about how her child, her small child, has some particular needs that were connected into, but at the same time how the needs of Cherie and her husband were connected into as well. And then the other very critical part of our whole 2G approach is that whole family engagement piece and how the agency was able to provide opportunities or incentivize those efforts by the parent to engage in a meaningful fashion. So, Cherie, you just talked about the reading program with your little one and how that then connects to your access to points or other resources that support the whole family. And I'm just excited to hear about your experience and your progress, and certainly see your future as being bright, and hope that the positive progression will continue with you and HRDC. And so with that said, I want to ask Courtney if you would lead and talk a little bit by providing some advice to those agencies who, okay, they've heard about 2Generation or 2G, but it's like, okay now, but how do I do this, or how do I get started? What advice would you offer to those agencies who are interested in learning more, but really more importantly, interested in doing more to move families forward? Courtney?
I think one of the best things you can do is engage some of your family's in a focus group and have a real frank, honest conversation and encourage them to share what's working well for them in terms of how you're providing services and what isn't. Early on, we had families actually draw a picture of what it was like to receive services from HRDC and then what it was like to receive services from other service providers in the community. And, you know, they say a picture can say 1,000 words, and it certainly did. We were able to look at what our families had shown us and provided to us to really drill down and look at, is there a way we can be doing things better? Is there a way that we are more effective in terms of service delivery, but also making things less complicated on our families? You know, we run 32 different programs here at the agency. We could have an application for every program if we wanted to have an application for every program. Yeah, maybe it gives some of our staff more control, but in the end, it doesn't benefit us as an agency to have different applications, and it doesn't benefit the families from having to complete the same types of information and provide the same documentation over and over again to provide services. So I would start with, you know, engaging your families and then looking internally about what you can be doing better to make this easier for families to connect. And then I would start engaging like-minded partners who really want to see families succeed, because it's not a matter of what the funding source is or what the individual mission is. All of us should be working together to move families forward. We each have just a small role to play in that. You know, HRDC doesn't provide all of the services needed in this community, and we never will, but our partners together working side by side and working in the best interest of the families can make a huge difference in someone's life.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And I want to emphasize that whole partner connection, really that's the strength of the work and the sustainability of the work. And it's not always an easy thing to maintain partners, but it's an important aspect of our overall approach as we're thinking about and engaging in the two-generation approach. So with that said, Charlie, what advice would you offer? What do you know now that you didn't know even 2-3 years ago in this process?
Well, I think Courtney just had a brilliant answer and a really comprehensive answer. I could not agree with Courtney more in terms of engaging parents and listening to them, and really doing doing some simple steps to make life a little less complicated for them. We ask for their birthday and their social security number an awful lot of times. And so I just really appreciate Courtney's answers and would echo all of those same pieces of advice. You know, when Family Futures Down East was designed with lots and lots of parent voice, we really hadn't heard of 2Gen. We'd done a lot of design work before Rural Impact, but we didn't know what 2Gen was, but we listened to parents and they came up with something that now has this remarkable momentum across the nation, right? And we remind them that this was their idea, and some of those participants in the early focus groups are now, in fact, participants in the program, and that's just, and it's been some years in the making. So they are the experts. They told us exactly what it would take to help move into an opportunity that would really change their lives and the lives of their children, from what they wanted to become better parents and to find better jobs, but also what would be in their way, not just logistically what would be in their way, but also emotionally what might be in their way. And those are really important barriers to listen to both. We all know transportation is going to be a challenge, but we also need to remember that moving into a post-secondary setting, for instance, for a parent might be threatening in terms of her physical safety if somebody perceives, if a partner perceives a threat in the status quo. So that's where those partnerships become very, very important, making sure that we're thinking about all of those supportive services that would help address barriers, logistical or emotional, or social emotional. So we did listen very much to parents. I think another piece of advice is, like, I think 2-gen strategies can be pretty small. I mean, Family Futures Down East is 7 major organizations in our county pulling together around family economic self-sufficiency, and a pretty big thing. It feels pretty comprehensive. But even just recently, we had a conversation with our Headstart partners about where there might be some foundations for 2-gen strategies. They're a partner in this big multi-agency effort, but they have additional opportunities for 2-gen strategies in their own centers. And so just for instance, one center in our area said, you know, they're highly trained, highly dedicated early childhood experts, and they know that a number of their families have parents who are getting medication-assisted treatment at a local methadone clinic. And oftentimes kids are either waiting in the car or waiting in line, like in the hallway with their parents. And the Headstart partners are like, how do we partner around that issue to bring our expertise together with a need or a desire that parents may have to offer some supports to their children so that they may begin their day differently because they're often beginning their day every day at the methadone clinic. So that conversation was a really powerful one and a courageous one, and it could be just one or two, could be just 2 partners working on a 2-gen strategy, and there are many that could be pursued, and it could be health and well-being outcomes that you might be pursuing, or social capital outcomes that you might be pursuing. I would encourage people to start small. Just figure out a way to eliminate one release form or application form or intake form is a win for those families.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Charlie. So you said a mouthful. Certainly parents are the key to their own success, and so giving them a sense of ownership around finding solutions to move their families forward is a crucial aspect of our approach. And this whole notion of barrier busting, and so as we think about the agency, internal to the agency, there might be silos or structures in place that just make the family's access to services and the resources just too complicated or hard. And so to be able to think reflectively from a family-centered point of view about how to best meet the family. So your example of the families at the methadone clinic, just sort of zoning in real time around how to effectively meet the needs of the parents and the children more cohesively is really a radical and a powerful notion, and really aligns with our thinking as we are engaging in this approach. The other, as we are thinking about this whole notion of barrier busting, I know a lot of our colleagues have spent a tremendous amount of time thinking about across departments and divisions within departments that support the various programs that we facilitate, how they might think about that from a systems level. And so, there are opportunities from the federal level to the community level in terms of the way partners connect together. Like I know in our technical assistance efforts within the project, we've talked a lot around data sharing and that whole notion of data interoperability and ways to establish those partnerships so that the information that is needed across partners might be available so that collectively each organization can help to move those families forward. So those insights are very helpful, and maybe some folks who are listening have some questions. If there are any questions that you have of our presenters today, we would ask that you utilize your question and answer box to ask any of your questions. And as you are maybe thinking about those, I'm going to ask our last question, I guess a formal question to presenters, and that is, what's next for your project. You have accomplished a tremendous amount of things. You've done a lot, and we're very excited about those accomplishments. But really, our intent from a larger point of view, looking at rural impact, is that you would continue to do the work, but I know from also our point of view, we want to light a fire within the human services industry, and particularly within community action, because, you know, from the partnership point of view, the Community Action Network is a captive audience for us, and so, you know, there it is. For those of you who are listening on the phone, there could be an opportunity for you in the near future to move your own 2G efforts forward, and we would love to be a part of supporting you in that. But I have put the question out there, and Charlie, I'll start with you. What's next for Family Futures Down East and for Maine?
So definitely a commitment to year 2, and we are recruiting the cohort now. So it'll be 32 families who will begin programming in the spring and summer to help parents get ready for college. And alongside of that, it really goes back to what you were just talking about, Tiffany, in terms of all the data that needs to be shared properly, and in order to reduce some of that sort of every different door requires a different intake process. So we were able to enroll and begin program activities for the first cohort this year, but they filled out a lot of forms, and there was a lot of redundancy there, and the data sharing was not all in place as we sort of built this plane as we were flying it. So we absolutely need to move into that data, really comprehensive data sharing, getting that design done with permissions and sort of reporting capacity. And that there were 20 families in the first year, so we'll be doing some back entry in terms of data, and it won't vary us because it's not a ton. But we need to move in that direction right now. Fortunately, what this partnership shares is a whole lot of goodwill in order to move that work forward across this pilot year, but it really needs to become a more formalized process in this coming year, and we're working really hard on that right now.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Courtney, what's next for Allegheny HRDC?
We are also looking at enhancing our data sharing capability with our partners because we do think it's important to be able to track the outcomes for our families so it can inform our future work. But the other piece we have been thinking about an awful lot is being able to expand a 2-generation approach to services beyond our early Head Start and Head Start families. So you know, a lot of 2-gen work tends to find its home or its beginnings in an early learning program, mainly because of some of the support structures that come with that, the funding that allows you to work with both parent and child together. But we know that families' needs don't cease when a child ages out of early Head Start or Head Start, and there's an ongoing need for a lot of our families for us to create that same type of support structure when they're no longer part of that program. So we're looking at opportunities and means to be able to continue working with families beyond age 5.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you very much. So there was a question from one of the participants, and I think this goes back to you, Charlie, and the question is, who is on your transition team? Like, what was the makeup of your transition team? Let's see, who did you use as your transition team? You stated you used the transition team to move the participants forward to post-secondary education. That's the question.
Great. So the program has always been sort of imagined as a 1-year program, and it's actually more like 14 months as there's quite a bit of onboarding activities to help the parents in particular get ready for college and familiar with the Early Learning Center and for their children and the campus and do that, do the whole application process and testing, et cetera. And then we imagine there'd be some transition supports and certainly lots of encouragement for families who wanted to pursue a certificate, an associate's degree, or go on to a bachelor's. But parents really started to worry, like, are we not going to have a coach? But their coach, right now, there's one coach for each campus, and these are very individualized, structured, powerful relationships, but not intended for year 2, for instance. This is a heavily supported year 1 in a post-secondary setting for the parents. So we are looking at adding a staff position in the summer to make sure that every sort of year 1 participant will have the support of a transitions coach to help them move into the next academic pursuit, whether it's certificate or associates or bachelor's or an employment setting. And with that, our Career Center partners are very key players because they continue to have oftentimes academic support through different Department of Labor funding sources, and they have a lot of workforce and career support programs as well. So there'll be a coach, this is our hope as we move into the summer and can add this position, that is a new person to help with year 2 transition, and that'll be done really closely in partnership with our Career Center.
Thank you very much. So can either of you speak to any positive outcomes you have experienced or produced regarding living wage jobs? So helping parents obtain living wage jobs. This is coming from a participant on the line who is located in the deep rural South where there simply aren't any living wage jobs. And so have you had any success in working with your parents in this regard?
So we've had some limited success, a lot of it being because of our regional job market, but the most success we have seen are around connecting some of our parents to certification programs through the local community college. The one that's been most popular and has achieved probably the most in terms of connecting people to livable wage jobs is actually the commercial driver's license program through Garrett Community College. Allegheny doesn't have a CDL program, but we do a lot of partnership and coordination with Garrett on their CDL program. There tends to be a fair amount of commercial driving employment opportunities locally through our county transit system, as well as through some of the trucking companies in the neighboring states that still allow for some local commuting type jobs, as well as then the traditional on the road, over the road type jobs where people are gone for the better part of their week. Other success we've had has been some with CNA and GNA programs, but they tend still to be a lower wage job and not necessarily able to meet livable wage, but what it is doing is boosting the family's income at some level.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we haven't seen, as a result of direct participation in Family Futures Down East, movement into employment with family supporting wages yet. And it's going to have a very heavy focus on supporting career pathways or career ladders. So through coaching and the goal setting that parents do in that career category, they'll have access to information about locally available high wage and high growth or high demand jobs. So, and in our area, that looks like health, occupation, information technology somewhat, finance a little bit, and then some educational opportunities as well. But there's no going right into a manufacturing setting here, or you know, a short-term upskilling to move you into a pretty stable, self-sufficient wage. It's going to take a lot of either multiple certificates or a 4-year degree.
So there are still challenges there, and I know across the 10 sites, the reality of the job market within rural settings is that challenge is very prominent, and it's somewhat complicated, but it's certainly one that each of our sites has continued to strategize around, and I think as each of us experiences different measures of success, we definitely should talk about those. One part of it is institutional or systematic, and so it says, you know, on one hand that local communities have to engage in, I guess, certain efforts and have certain supports to kind of change available opportunities, but then I also would say collectively across our country, you know, rural communities need to sound their voices to remind everyone that rural America feeds a lot of our nation. Rural America certainly produces individuals who resource our military, and they're just wonderful values that our communities offer, and as a result, as decision makers are making decisions about where to invest resources and to place opportunities, that rural America certainly is not to be forgotten. In that, I have observed in one of our sites where there has been a strong emphasis on entrepreneurship for families that have been involved in the program, and so finding those seed resources to support individuals who want to start their own business and to sort of provide that ongoing stability until the businesses are able to take off has been one approach that we have also observed. So we don't think that there are any additional questions. To Charlie and Courtney and to Cherie, is there a last word that you would like to offer to our participants before we conclude today?
I would just like to say, just keep doing what you're doing. I think everybody's doing a fantastic job. Be optimistic for all the families. I think that's really that's really important, just to show that you believe in your families and individuals to achieve their goals, and just do everything you can in your power just to, you know, help them along, and just, like I said, just be optimistic.
Thank you very much, Cherie.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to respond to that. Doing everything you can in your power has been a really important message for me, and I think for the partners in Family Futures Downey, it's true that parents in our region really did imagine what this program would be, and it was on us to build it. Like, they didn't necessarily have the power to build this opportunity, but the partners did, and that was our that's our obligation, I think, to do what's in our power to build these coordinated, aligned, collective, and really shared opportunities for families to become successful, and just to not to build pathways out of poverty, but to build like highways out of poverty. That's what we should be doing. So my last sort of thought around that is, you know, engaging parents in the design of a program is really important, because that's where the gems of our design came from. But keeping them involved in it is also so essential. An example of that we are committed to is parent participation, parent membership on our advisory board. So one parent from each campus is a fully voting, fully participating member in the advisory board, and they keep us really informed. And they are it's rock solid participation from those parents who take the role very seriously, keep us very honest, and give us really good, they are part of the group. It's really good guidance.
Thank you very much, Charlie. All right, so then very quickly, want to point out some of the resources that we have available through the project. There was a brief that was published by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. ASPE is the area that put together an implementation report on year one of rural impact efforts, and so it provides you with an overview of the project. It talks about who the stakeholders were and what the sites have actually engaged in during year one, and talks about successes and some of their challenges. And so we invite you who want to learn a little bit more to take a look at that brief. It's for you to take advantage of and to learn from. Looking at the next slide, we have also been fortunate to have some resources that kind of support community talking points around the two-generation approach and rural impact. This effort was funded by one of our foundation funders, but one provides an overview of rural impact, and so there again it gives you some more insight on our effort, but hopefully would also inspire many of you who are just trying to find a frame for talking about 2G within your own communities. And the second publication focuses primarily on building capacity. And so we thank everyone for taking the time out to be present for today's webinar. And most of all, I want to say thank you to our wonderful presenters, to you, Charlie, and to you, Courtney and Cherie. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to share with us, to teach us, to give us an opportunity to learn from you. And we certainly expect good things, very good things on the 2G, two-generation sphere from you in the future. So thank you again for sharing. And next, I want to just highlight the fact that this is a mini-series, Learning with the Learning Community, and so the next part of our series will take place on April 6th. There will be a Learning with the Learning Community presentation focused on bundling services or integrated services that really kind of connect very beautifully with the whole notion of 2G, because two-generation is a bundling services strategy or approach, and so it'll be interesting to hear some more perspective around integrated services or bundling services. And then in May, we have two more presentations coming up, one on financial empowerment and the other on trauma-informed approaches to alleviating poverty. So we thank everybody again for your time, and we'll go to the last slide that, or the next slide that asks us to ask you for feedback. And so if you would take some time out, we'll also make sure that this is, I'm not sure if it's going to be copied in the chat window or not, but for sure at the conclusion of this webinar, we will make this link available to you and ask that you offer your feedback. And then finally, if you have any questions about anything that has been shared during today's presentation or anything related to the Learning Communities Resource Center, our staff is here for you. So maybe you're just wanting to go deeper in terms of asking that question, how do we get started? Where do we go to get resources? Who can we talk to? We are here for you. And so as I said, I'm Tiffany Marley, and my contact information will be available in the slides as well as the rest of our team. So we thank everybody for joining us, and thank you again to our presenters. Please make it a great day. This concludes our webinar. Thank you.